And we are recording. Tahirih Justice Center, take it away.
Thank you. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. We are so happy to be here, excited to be part of presentations for the first in-person meeting for LPN.
It's for the recording.
So my name is Tahirih, like Cindy said. I'm a social services advocate with Tahirih Justice Center based out of our Baltimore office.
Hola, buenas tardes. Yo soy Daniela Priesthoff. I'm the supervising attorney at the Baltimore office. Okay, so many of you may have heard of Tahirih Justice Center. Our name is weird, but we've been around for a long time. The reason we have our name is Tahirih is because Tahirih was a woman many years ago who stood up for survivors of domestic violence, and those are the ones we serve. Our mission is to protect immigrant women and girls, or those who identify as women and girls, who refuse to be victims of violence, and that can include domestic violence, sexual violence, persecution abroad, female genital cutting, all kinds of things that are based on that person's gender. Our offices are national, so our main office, or rather our local office, is here in Baltimore, but we have offices in Texas, California, Georgia, and Greater DC.
So this gives you a really great visual of Tahirih's three-pronged approach to how we execute our mission of protecting women and girls who are victims of violence, survivors of violence. So a lot of our work falls under this direct services that you will see underneath, which we will definitely get into, our direct services for social services and legal. But we also do a lot of work under policy. So that means being an active part in any laws that are coming through that might affect the individuals that we serve. We have a great policy team who are always keeping us up to date and doing those efforts in DC on the ground to advocate for those policy changes that are going to affect the individuals we serve. And then we also do have a training and education branch of it, which we'll also talk a little bit more in depth. Obviously that's been affected by the pandemic, but we do provide trainings if your organization is interested in having a training that might be beneficial on how we approach services to individuals that are fleeing gender violence, then it's something that we are able to do.
Okay, so as Fiona says, we have a variety of services available. You can see in here this outline of which kinds of services we offer. We provide immigration legal services, family legal services to those who are immigration clients. We also provide some civil law legal services, which basically means that if a client loses at the immigration court level, we can help them with the appellate level to appeal or ask for reconsideration of that decision throughout the immigration court system. We also provide services regarding forced marriage protection, so there are a lot of survivors of gender-based violence who have been forced to marry without their consent, and we are there to provide them direct services as well. As Fiona says, we provide some social services, and I'll leave that to her to talk more about. But we also provide some kind of limited medical services, and really in essence to provide a bridge for our clients to access mental health and medical services that they need. Okay, so speaking about types of legal services, our legal services are based on the harm suffered by that client. So that means that our services are really humanitarian relief based, and these are some of the services we provide for immigration legal services. Asylum is probably our major form of legal services, and that's for those who have suffered persecution on account of race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or their membership in a particular social group. So one example, for example, would be a Honduran woman who flees Honduras because she suffered domestic violence at the hands of her children's father and fled to the U.S. for safety. So that could potentially be eligible for asylum. We also provide legal services for U visas or U non-immigrant status, and that is for survivors who suffered specific qualifying crimes that are considered under the statute to be qualifying criminal activities. And if that person has cooperated with law enforcement authorities in in the investigation and or prosecution of that crime, that person may potentially be eligible for the U visa. No conviction is necessary for that eligibility. Another option we have is the T visa, and that's specifically for those who have survived human trafficking, which can include labor trafficking or sex trafficking. And that can include not only adults, but also children. We provide legal services for VAWA self-petitions and battered spouse waivers. That all falls under, as well, the Violence Against Women's Act statute. And that's for those who, those immigrant survivors of gender-based violence who have been married to a lawful permanent resident or a U.S. citizen and may potentially qualify for legal status based on that qualifying relationship. And lastly, we also provide legal services to special immigrant juveniles, and that entails a process that's both state-based and immigration court-based, and immigration service agency-based usually. That involves children who have suffered abuse, abandonment, or neglect at the hands of one or both of their parents. And a state court judge has to find that it's not in their best interest to return to their home country or to be reunited with that parent who caused the abuse, abandonment, or neglect. It's a lot of factors and elements, but essentially it's for children who are not able to have reunification with their parents because of that mistreatment. All of these options provide a long path, but a path to get legal status. And I can break that down if you want to email me or talk to me. I'm happy to do that, but I won't go into those details here.
And then the other branch of our services that we provide in-house is our social services. So we do I've broken it down here for you guys about our in-house services and our community referrals. So one important thing to note is that in order for us to provide social services to an individual, they must have a legal case open. We cannot, because of our legality being a legal organization, have a social services case open without a legal case currently under in-house with us. So if that's the case, our legal advocates make a referral over, and the in-house services that we offer, one of the most important ones is safety planning, so making sure that we are continuously working with those clients to ensure that they are safe, even if it's an asylum client that maybe is here due to violence in their home country. We are continually assessing for safety services, making sure that they even feel safe in their community if there's somebody that is new. Comprehensive case management, which for those of you that work in case management, you understand that this falls under, it covers a lot of things. We work a lot with clients right now with housing under the pandemic, with public benefits, enrolling their children in school, receiving mental health services and connecting them to that, or medical services. So whatever that looks like, we really do our best to connect our clients to that. We complete a comprehensive needs assessment with our clients when we first start these social services to ensure we really take a look at everything going on with that client and what they identified they would like to work on with us. Their system navigation, as I mentioned, and a large branch of advocacy as well. We find that when working with our clients who are receiving immigration relief, there can be a lot of hurdles that we face, specifically within systems where they say, no, your client is not a U.S. citizen, they don't qualify for this. But if we sit there and really take a look at breaking down whatever the regulations and rules for this are, the client is eligible because maybe they have, a prima facie determination, or they do have their work permit, and that enables them for other services. So there is a lot of work in advocacy as well. We do work a lot with community agencies as well, which is why LPN is so great for us, because there are a lot of things that we don't provide in-house, right? So if we need emergency shelter, food pantries, medical or mental health services, then we are connecting our clients to those services in the community that we trust and we know are going to be able to provide those needed services for our clients. So this is why these connections are so important for us to be able to make those referrals outside of Tahirih and have our clients really supported in that way. And one of the things that I'll mention about our social services as well is that we really take an empowerment model with how we work with clients, and ensuring that in the time that we have a client's case open with social services, we're not doing these things for them. Rather, we're walking alongside our clients to ensure that we are teaching them skills and empowering them to be able to take these steps themselves, because we recognize we won't always be there with them, right? So it's more important to teach them and support them through these things than just say, okay, I'll make this phone call or I'll do this. So that's really important to understand regarding our social services as well.
Yes, and so training and education is an essential part of the work we do because of our empowerment model. We want to empower not only our clients, but our community stakeholders, our community partners, to empower other survivors as well. So one way we do that is through trainings. We work extensively with attorneys, judges, and other legal professionals to train them up on how to serve survivors of gender-based violence, immigrant survivors of gender-based violence. And we also work with police and law enforcement as well, who are just an essential part of that collaboration. We work with medical professionals, teachers, counselors, educators, community and religious leaders. All of these members are essential to creating the support system that survivors need. We also recognize and respond to survivors of gender-based violence when they tell us, what they need, what they need to be able to thrive and to grow and to further progress in their journey. We also pay attention to their cultural differences and language barriers. I'm Spanish fluent pianist as well, and we also have other language speakers in our office, and we have wide access to interpreters as well. We also, have to understand that we have existing obligations to protect survivors under U.S. law. That's a whole other presentation, but we do have responsibilities under U.S. law to provide protection to these survivors. We also are always looking for new opportunities to protect survivors. So if you have an idea or potential possibility for us to collaborate, please, we welcome you to reach out to us and have that conversation.
So we had this PowerPoint at great timing because Tahirih actually just released last week our 2021 impact report. So I wanted to share these numbers with LPN. So in 2021, we served 2,590 immigrant survivors through free legal services, and that is absolutely wonderful. We connected 328 clients and their family members to social services in that year, and amazingly, we provided $218,000 in emergency financial assistance for basic needs such as food, rent, transportation, and even filing fees for clients. We know that this pandemic has really impacted our clients, and Tahirih had the great ability and opportunity to be able to provide this. So this just gives you a really great snapshot of the work that we're able to do, the lives that we're able to impact.
And just to give you an idea of the difference that our legal services makes. And so, for example, if an immigrant survivor of gender-based violence goes to court without representation and they want to file for asylum, they have a 15% likelihood of winning. 15%. When they have representation, that goes up about 30%. They have a 46% likelihood of winning asylum. When they're represented by a Tahirih attorney, their chances go up to 96%. And that's really because we have really invested years and commitment of work to making sure that our legal services are as up-to-date, as top quality as possible. And really it also comes from the community collaborations that we have that inform our advocacy efforts and really open the doors to helping survivors even more than we ever envisioned. So these members are really great. They speak of Tahirih really well, but they also speak really well of our partners and community members.
And then here's our contact information. We will have some pamphlets, my business card, our Baltimore office business card as well, so that you all may contact. Mine and Daniela's information is on this slide as well if you want to take a picture of it. We are open to any questions, comments that individuals have. If you see an opportunity where we might be able to connect, partner, collaborate, we are always looking for that. So we welcome any questions.
So what is your intake process? Do you take referrals or do people call you?
Thank you for that question. I was prepared. And so because of the pandemic, our resources are limited. We're kind of slowly reopening. We just came back to office. We are able to actually see clients in our office now. So while we're trying to figure out reopening and our capacity, we're only open for legal consultations over the phone. And what that means is a person calls our office and says, I'm a survivor of gender-based violence. Here's my very brief story. And if we understand that they are eligible for our services, then we connect them with an appointment over the phone with an immigration attorney. And that consultation lasts anywhere from half an hour to an hour, where the person understands understand what their options are and what the next steps would be in their journey. From there, they would be getting referrals to legal service providers who might be able to take the case. Once we're open for intake, meaning we're open for new cases, then from that telephone appointment, if we're able to accept their case, potentially, then we schedule them for an in-person interview. And that informs our decision as to whether we're able to be the best fit. And our number, I don't know that we have, oh, we do have that. So our number to call to make those appointments for telephone consultations is 410-999-1900. Any more questions?
Do you offer technical assistance to other organizations?
Depending, if we're able to help, I'm always happy to help. But if we're not the best fit, then I'll be sure to refer that person to the appropriate service provider.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
I think what Danielle said about why she joins or why she's with the Latino Providers Network, she hit it spot on. I wish I had a recorder and recorded when you said that.
I
use
did.
it.
It's right there.
Did you?
There's a recording right there.
So we're going to use that because this is the reason why, you know. It's not just the presentations, it's the what happens afterwards. You make a connection with her and I make a connection with her. And all of a sudden it makes my life easier because not all our organizations do all the work, right? So, love it.
Spot on. Spot on. Thank you. And Daniela, thank you for that wonderful presentation.
Yes.
So next up is a man who doesn't really need to be introduced, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is Nicholas Machado, and he is representing the Latino Racial Justice Circle.
Wow, the thing I wanted to start off with is that I remember in 2018, that was like when I started my first professional job. I used to sit, I think it was in that back corner right there. So finally get to stand up here now after that 4 years. So hey everybody, my name is Nick Machado and I'm here representing today the Latino Racial Justice Circle. Our other co-president, Juliana, which, fun fact, Juliana is now the first Director of Immigrant Affairs in the new Baltimore County Cabinet for the County Executive. So, yes, she is sick with a cold, so she couldn't join us today. But I am excited to share with you a little bit about our group. So, the vision, oh, I am blocking the slide.
Make sure you stay in frame.
You're right, I'll stay in the frame. The vision of the Latino Racial Justice Circle is to create opportunities throughout the greater Baltimore community for meaningful, authentic dialogue about race relations with people of different cultures. So we operate in both Baltimore City and Baltimore County. We have membership in both Baltimore City and Baltimore County. And often we have people who might not even be living in the city or county, but they might be doing work in either of the two. Now, we are a faith-based organization, but I should be clear that not all members have faith affiliation, and you don't need to have a faith affiliation to be part of LRJC. We are an ecumenical group, which just means of different denominations. You know, members of our Catholic, Christian, Methodist, right, different denominations of Christianity usually. As everyone here knows, growing up in a Latino household, that faith is a very strong part of the Latino culture, you know, no matter which country you are from, and the impact of religion has absolutely affected, you know, norms and such that exist in our cultures today. So what we try to do is, you know, we try to tackle those historical biases that may exist as a result of that in a way that's culturally competent, right? Because our group has dozens and dozens of years of experience, often right here in the neighborhood surrounding us, despite being what is essentially a 100% volunteer-run group. This is nobody's full-time job to be on the Latino Racial Justice Circle. We're completely, you know, made up of volunteers, around 15 to 20 active members. Which means if you have some free time and you want to join us volunteer, you can feel free to do so. Now, Now, a little bit about some of the programs that we've done. I think one of the notable ones that happened in 2020, this was, I think, between around April and December, we started doing fundraising for our own small COVID-19 humanitarian aid program, where we would deliver approximately $200 to each family that would reach out to us. And $200 is not a life-changing amount. Realistically, it helps put groceries on the table for 1 week, but it helps make, you know, a very difficult situation just a little bit more manageable. So our group was able to raise over $77,000 for that effort, and I think that the reason that we bring this up is just to say that despite being again, we are not fully established as a 501c3 yet. That should actually happen by the next meeting that the Latino Racial Justice Circle convenes. But it shows that we definitely have, you know, our own individual levels of expertise, and I hope to show you that with more of the work that we do. So next, I want to talk a little bit about the work that we've done with education. And unfortunately, the picture doesn't show it. It's like a nice little photo. I think it was at ECCC with the Latino Unidos Club. LRJC is a group that oftentimes, we work very closely with BCCC specifically. And we have several students that have gone through there that essentially reach out to us every year to ask for assistance with paying for things like textbooks and other base fees that they may have at school, I should say. The educational programs tend to focus on the stories and needs of the Latino community. And I don't think Shayla is here today, but for those of you who don't know Shayla, over at BCCC is a super great member of our group and a very great connection to the Latinx Unidos Club. But in addition, our group also adapts to the needs of the current time, right? So when I say that, because we're a group of volunteers and, you know, things change, time passes, sometimes situations arise that maybe will shift our focus. And one example of that is with MISPA applications. So recently, and for those of you actually who have, you know, teenagers who are in maybe 16, 17, right about to go to college, you may be trying to fill out their FAFSA forms right now, their MISPA forms right now, and there was a very strong need of doing that over at BCCC for a lot of the students. And so, you know, our group came together. We got a few groups of volunteers to collaborate with CASA and join them for some MISPA trainings. And I say that more so to give an example that, you know, if you have projects that you think, you know, there is no one group that specifically does it as their main goal because it's, you know, a small temporary thing, like FAFSA, like MISPA. I always recommend that you come join the LRJC, you know, and we have groups of folks who are always willing to help, you know, promote small community projects like that. The last thing in our education program, we were fortunately invited to Morgan State recently to present to some of the classes on kind of our religious founding. We're not going to go into the specifics of that, but fun fact, Pope John Paul XXIII, I believe, when he convened what was called the 21st Ecumenical Council, he said, you know, we need to look at the modern adaptation of religion in a more secular world. And while his interpretation of that may have been just to get more members for the Catholic Church, that's your next party joke, by the way. What's similar to my organization and Pope John Paul XXIII? We're trying to find more members. But for us, we interpret that a little bit differently in that, you know, in a world that is becoming increasingly more secular, why is that? And that's why we try to tackle the biases that we do. Our legal assistance program has, we've donated over $8,000 to Esperanza Center in immigration legal services, and over time have raised more than $15,000 in legal assistance funding. I should be clear, and I really want to say this because I think some people, they think we do more than we do. We are not a service provider organization, so please do not refer, you know, lots and lots of legal cases to us. We usually will try to refer individual families whose stories we come across, people who have strong cases that we think we will be able to fund. I will say, if you are a legal service provider or an immigration attorney and you would like to partner with us, I please recommend you do so. You can reach out to me, and our contact info will be at the end. And recently, we actually were able to provide legal representation. This is just for this year alone. Right now, for 2 families so far, and we have done, more, approximately 2 to 5 per year before that. Now, what a lot of people know LRJC for is a program that we have that's called Honest Conversations. This is a program that's actually led by our former co-president, Felipe Filomeno. Me and Felipe, we like to make a joke. We're the only 2 Brazilians in Baltimore City. It's not actually true. But Felipe, so he is a, I believe, associate director somewhere on the high education ladder over at UMBC. And the Honest Conversations program, as the title implies, essentially deals with having an honest conversation about biases in faith-based groups and congregations. The LRJC has had this occur in more than 10 different congregations already, across various denominations. We've been in Methodist churches, we've been in Lutheran churches, we've been in Baptist churches, Catholic churches, and we try to target really 2 main things. In congregations that have a high level of Latino members, but also in communities that may not have a lot of Latino members, but there is an increased amount of Latinos in that neighborhood, right? And so a good example that actually happened not long ago, for those of you who are familiar with the neighborhood, it's called Eastwood. It's right on, like half the neighborhood is in the city, the other half is in the county. More and more immigrants are starting to move into that neighborhood. And this is back when I was the immigrant affairs manager for Councilman Cohen, and I remember speaking to a lot of the residents there, and they would tell me, Nick, ever since the immigrants started moving in, the trash is crazy. The crime has gone up. And I would say, well, I don't think that's just because, we have immigrants moving in, but let's talk some. And lo and behold, there is a parish that's right next to that community, I believe in Colgate, which I don't know if she's here, but everyone knows Pastor Alyssa Kaplan. And so we spoke with her. A lot of the members of that community attend that parish. And we had an honest conversation session at that parish specifically to target this issue. So, why do I say that? It's just to show that Honest Conversations deals with 2 things together, right? For immigrant communities and the biases that we see growing up, but also for communities who may have that same bias towards immigrants. Last but certainly not least, a little bit on our advocacy program. The LRJC is always very active in trying to support legislation that will support immigrants and various communities that need assistance, things like immigration policy, health policy. There was a lot of wins in the Maryland General Assembly. We advocated for several of those bills. A lot of our members are also very, very active in showing our support to other marginalized communities, including the Black Lives Matter movement, the Pride movement, and the Trans Pride movement. We've had a great showings with membership over at women's marches, and right now I'm figuring out a little bit of a project to do some mentorship as well for some of the Latino youth in our area. So, with all that being said, it's been a very nice conversation that I've had with everybody. You can follow us on social media right here. Our website is www.lrjc.org. We meet on the 2nd Saturday of every month, and the best way to contact us is at our email address, Latino Racial Justice Circle @gmail.com. I guess I'll just open up if anybody has any questions, but thank you.
Questions?
If you don't have questions, you can tell me a joke, you can ask for food recommendations, anything.
I've got something. You know what? He started his conversation with, I used to sit back there. And I remember this very quiet young man.
A little shy.
Starts his journey, and 2 years, maybe a couple months later, I see him in a lot of the the virtual meetings, advocating for the Latino community. I see him now talking so eloquently to you all about what they do in the Latino community. So man, this is what it's all about. I am so proud when I see young people for the young Latinos, because they're our future. So Nick, man. Congratulations. She's over there now. She must ask it. Come on in.
You did a great job. I'm part of the Latino Racial Justice Circle also. And we were trying to figure out, one of the things I want to do is thank the membership here, because I know so many of you did actually contribute. But one of the things that you did, I'm not sure if I got here a little late, but one of the things that we did was we're able to give people in the county some funding that they weren't able to get because the city had programs, but the county did not. So we were able to help touch a lot of families with cash donations during the worst part of the pandemic, when people were the worst. And I know that Susan here, Susana, went and distributed them, and there are several people here who actually went to people's homes. And I can tell you that the impact that it had on helping people not just survive but thrive was really powerful. So I wanted to thank you all. I'm not exactly sure how many counties, that's not so critical, but it was a lot. But I wanted to say thank you so much to everyone here. Racial Justice Circle. Yeehaw! Adelante.
Awesome, awesome. And if you, in this group right here, in this area, right here, this area right here, they were talking to me about bringing services and collaborating with folks that live south Baltimore. You know, the Brooklyn area, right? Cherry Hill. We forget about those places. Those places need help too. Those places have the leadership too that we can collaborate with. So stay tuned for what they've got coming. You know, they've got good stuff.
During the announcements. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nick. I'll take both. Here, you can have this one. Hello.
Thank you, Nick.
That was great, Nick. Thank you so much. Last but certainly not least, how many of you have heard of Maryland Latinos Unidos? I have raised my hand. Is this better? Okay, this is better. Thank you. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. She just said you know I'm lame, and I'm like, no, that's not true. That's not true. I would like to very much introduce, I'm very honored to introduce Dr. Gabriela Limas from Maryland Latinos Unidos.
Hello, I feel like I'm debuting Maryland Latinos Unidos. We are all of a year and a half old. We were started in the middle of the pandemic precisely because of the pandemic. In April 2020, the leadership at Maryland Latinos Unidos convened a meeting with over 84 Latino leaders from across the state and came on board and decided that it was necessary to create some kind of statewide infrastructure that one does what you're doing here in Baltimore, but like share the love, because you guys have been doing this a long time, right? So other places can learn from you here. I'm actually based in Montgomery County, so I'm gonna give you our mission. Our mission, and I haven't memorized it, I apologize, is to build the capacity of grassroots Latinos serving organizations, call attention to disparities and inequities faced by Latinos and immigrant communities, and address these problems with coordinated action. So this kind of collaboration that is going on here is critical to problem solving. And to ensure all Latinos are able to access necessary services, which has really been what came out of the pandemic. We saw we had no access, we had little access, we had messed up access. So that takes me to into our year and a half journey, actually only 1 year journey, we launched a public policy series which we hold every fourth Thursday morning from 9 to 10. It's in English, but we've developed Spanish language type of work as well. We started in Cafecito Virtual, we just started it last month. And Cafecito Virtual features Latino leaders, and we do kind of an interview. What's your best, how do you like to take your coffee? We had a young woman from Argentina last time, and she was like, I don't drink coffee, I drink mate. And I was like, okay, well, educate us about mate. But between February to June, a big thing happened. We applied for a collaborative grant with a group of 6 of us, and we created the Mid-Atlantic Latinx Vaccine Equity Coalition, or MALVIC, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. First thing we noticed, because we are a think and do tank, not just a think tank, we are a think and do tank. We do not provide direct services, but we do try to bring together a number of convenings that think big. So we're part of something called the Think Big Think Tank. We're actually housed inside the Maryland Nonprofits Association, which is based here in Baltimore. And the reason for that is because one of the things we know is that we start these wonderful organizations and then we run into sustainability problems in year 3, 4, 5, sometimes year 10. Maryland Nonprofits itself went through a kind of revival because it ran into some problems a few years back. It's normal, it's part of our life cycle, but we're there to provide technical assistance and capacity building through their standards for excellence, which we are translating significant portions of it into Spanish. Our website is in English and in Spanish, and we have a MALVIC website, which is in English and in Spanish, and we actually just launched a Spanish language one exclusively that is going to evolve us into a health equity alliance, but I digress. So I wanted to show you some data, because we tend to just, there was a saying from Congress, all politics is local, which, by the way, I come out of Washington, D.C., so if I get a little political, I do apologize, it comes with the territory. 20 years of bad habits. So what I want to point out to you is that I call them the big 5. There are 5 counties that are really critical to Latinos in this state. We know we're at around 734,000, well, we actually think we're bigger because the census, there's suspicion that the census didn't get on us, right? So what you see here is some really crazy incremental growth in just the last 10 years. In Montgomery, from 17% to 21%, but look at the real numbers. We're now at 217,000 Latinos from 165. Let me fast forward, I have to do a shout out here to Prince George's. Prince George's had the massive growth. They grew from 128.9 to 205.4. And it always feels like it's overnight. We know it's not, it's a process. But Baltimore City, from 4% to 8%, which is about the same, almost the same percentage. Well, they were at 6. But from 26,000 to about 46,000. That's 20,000 new people. If you think about it in real numbers, it's like whole towns just moved in, right? So what does that mean? It means we have to acculturate, it means we have to learn how to be part of a community, but it also, how is that community able to receive us? So Latino Providers Network and all the work you're doing here with all these wonderful organizations, that's you. You're never going to be out of work, just think about it. So lastly, it's Anne Arundel, and it grew from 6 to 10%, but what I want to highlight for you is Annapolis. Annapolis is now 23.8% Latino. Who knew? So here is where the pandemic kicks in, and this is a little bit problematic. What we know, and this is a conservative think tank, the Peter Peterson Foundation, and we saw that, so I checked before I came here, I was like, I better give them the correct number. So I believe the median household income for Maryland in 2020 was $94,000. Latinos, between 2019 and 2020, lost about $1,000 from their median household income. Now, those are not the ones who lost, their jobs during the pandemic. This is just the median. So think about it. How do we survive? How are we doing this? Which brings me to our kiddos. Our population in the state under 18 is about 30.8%, so almost 31%. There's school systems, because I do know one thing. So I'm a former academic, and I specialize in borders. I know, somebody had to do it. And I specialize in emerging communities. And what we saw is that what we always see in emerging communities, whether it's Little Rock or Orlando at one point was an emerging community 20 years ago, is that there's 3 areas where you know you're going to feel the impact first: law enforcement, healthcare, education. And obviously housing, right? You have to live somewhere. So there's close to 1 million students in all of Maryland's public schools. 19.4 of these are Latino students. And these are 2019 numbers, so it could actually be a little bit higher. And in 2019, there were 177,000 in elementary schools. We're young. And 80,000 in classes 7 through 12. 9% of all students were English language learners. Now, we're a very, very well-receiving state. We bring people in from all over. 75% of them, though, are Spanish speakers. That's important because if that's happening with kids, it's happening with adults as well. So this gets me to Malvik. And I'll move quickly. This is the grant that got us there. We received a grant from the CDC Foundation because we collaborated with these wonderful organizations, the Center of Health, GASA, and CHEER. Whoops, I think I skipped somebody. Oh, I did. I actually removed them. The City of Annapolis, Johns Hopkins University, and George Washington University. Malvik has a team of academic healthcare advisors from the very tip top of these institutes of public health. And it's important because everything we're trying to do, this is the think tank part, is evidence-based. We want to show data. And what we learned during this pandemic, that data in this state, but it's not just here, it's everywhere, so let's not feel bad, around healthcare is really inconsistent. How you take, so when you talk about intake information, critical, because that's where you start getting the basics. And there's even a discussion right now being led by the Robert Woods Johnson Foundation about data stratification, and the fact that it could be a racist system. Maybe we're collecting data from the get-go in a way that's harming us as communities. So our goal is everything is to be inclusive. Now, because we got this big grant from the CDC Foundation, it was $500,000, massive. We were able to get money into the field, and I call it field work, as quickly as possible, but we didn't do the work. We gave the money to organizations that were doing really good things. So Johns Hopkins is with us. The City of Annapolis created something called the Cuídate. And then we have the Center of Health, we have GASA, and all these organizations then had the teams of community health workers. Community health workers are so important. I hope we don't forget them in our conversations moving forward. But because we got this grant, we were able to get a $200,000 grant for just that, to do that kind of community outreach. So again, just like the work you're doing here, critical. There's our partners. So I just want to share some accomplishments with you because we're pretty proud of it. So this is just between June and January, June 2021, we reached 31,639 people directly through our community health services. We have workers, We have another layer, which is community health organizers, who actually, there's 4 of them, and they coordinate at the county level so that the locals can have a place to talk and figure out where directories are, etc. If at this late stage of the game, we would think that has already taken place, but it hasn't. Another thing we're doing is we're sitting on different health equity commissions at the county level. And these county community health organizers then can be at the table. And here's something that is really important about our work at Maryland Latinos Unidos. It's about representation. We have to be at the table, otherwise we will be on the menu. And I always say that a little bit like, I don't know if, well, you guys are pretty young in this crowd, but Shirley Chisholm was an African-American congresswoman out of New York, and she used to say, well, if they don't invite you to the table, bring a folding chair. So I'm with her on that one, bring our folding chairs.
Yeah.
And vaccinated over almost 20,000 people in this short time frame. We're still vaccinating, but what we're learning is whatever hesitancies were there before, they're still there now. They've just gotten more complicated. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation out there that we are trying very hard to wrap our heads around. How do you do rapid response? Because of the CDC Foundation, we've been able to sit at national tables now. So Maryland is in the House. Latinos of Maryland are in the House. And that's really important because our Malvec has actually been featured at the, I'm going to get this wrong, National Association of County Clinical Officers. I think I got it right. And these are the folks on the ground who are in government, who are doing this work, getting it out there, and we're talking to them about community engagement and the critical importance of cultural competency, language, but also we come from 22 different countries. We're not just from one. We're not all Mexican. Now, I'm Mexicana. I'm proud of it. I was born in La Ciudad de Mexico, but I grew up in Puerto Rico, you know, so I'm Bolivares. And I like to think of myself as Pan-Latina. I've had the privilege of living in different Latin American countries and working throughout Latin America. And I love all of our cultures, but they are different. We are different. So how do you share that with people in a way that's very positive? And I think it's easy because I love us, but not everybody gets that part, and it really makes a difference. So lastly, you know, we've delivered sanitary kits, 16,500. We've reached social media. Now we're newbies, right? We're really new. We have all kinds of things that I just have a young guy who does it for me. He's 19, great. So we're on Instagram, we're not on TikTok, not yet. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we are on Twitter. And what we do with this is not just talk about events, but really about policy and changes that are coming down. So for example, yesterday, the White House talked about COVID, and apparently it's ticking up again, something like 4.5% rate increase. But what that means is that we still have to be vigilant. So this gets me to the last thing, which is our policy recommendation. Really, I am OCD about data. I am going to keep pushing data and building data, and let's do this together because it's critically important. We're also looking at issues like expanding state benefits to all ITIN holders who fall under earned income tax credit, prioritizing bilingual services across government agencies, and funding. You have to have resources. They can't just expect us to keep doing this stuff for free. We love to volunteer, but we have to eat too, and we can't tell, you know, what's the thing about planes when you get your mask, put your mask on first and then share with others. We have to do that for ourselves as well. And lastly, we really, together, should prioritize Latino community building efforts by prioritizing access to economic development for small businesses, nonprofits, infrastructure, sustainability, and education. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening to my
Are there any questions? Susanna has a question.
I always have questions.
Susanna always has a question. I'm coming to you, Susanna.
So, I saw you mention a lot of resources in Baltimore City, and what about Baltimore County? Because I noticed that, you know, Baltimore City was full-on mobile clinics early on. Baltimore County started doing the mobile clinics last. It's basically the pharmacies, and they put a lot of barriers for immigrant community.
Absolutely.
So, are there any plans for Baltimore County?
There are, and actually we have a community health organizer who is came out of the Baltimore County Health Department. And here's what happened when she left. Everything she was doing for Latinos collapsed. And this is the challenge, and this is why we have to build our leadership, and our young people are so important. I say, you know, I have to bring everybody up with me, because at some point I want to retire and go fishing, right? But not today. But if you don't have those young people, and you know, one of the things I didn't say, and this has got me profoundly disturbed about our young people, there's a lot of mental health challenges right now. And the school systems are facing it. And we're not just seeing dropouts, we're seeing high levels of suicide from 10 and 11-year-olds. So this is national, it's not this area. Going to Baltimore County though, what that means is I'm trying to help people like Juliana, right? And all the work she's doing. First thing I did when I found out she was there, I called her randomly and I was like, hi, you don't know me, but I really need to talk to you. And we had what was going to be a 30-minute conversation turned into an hour and a half. I really listened to what she was going through. So now what I'm going to do is try to help her build a support infrastructure. She says, we can't do this alone.
Question from Donna.
Thank you for your wonderful, wonderful, very quick explanation of your services. It's great to have you on board. Well, I did meet your Malbec person. I kept on thinking Malbec, you know, from Argentina. We love our wine. We love a lot of stuff.
That's where the name came from,
However,
actually.
I was like, wow, anyways, one of the things I was hoping is if you could let us know how we could partner with you, because I know that, like, for example, I wear 1,000 hats. People who know me know that. But, you know, we've got Centro Sol, we've got, you know, all these other, you know, folks. I'm on with Juliana and the New Americans in Baltimore County, and Susanna's right. One of the biggest crises that I can see in my other hat as the Director of Survivor Services at Asylum Women Enterprises, housing. I was late for this today because people showed up at our door with no housing. Families with, you know, pregnant moms. This is happening, like, this is the 5th time in the last week. And so we have a real housing crisis, so I'm wondering, is there any will to building actual shelters where parents can stay together versus separating parents? And so I'm wondering what we can do to join forces. So thanks.
Well, you can start by emailing me, and you know, but just thinking about it, this is housing. We have a housing crisis, right? I mean, this, you know, you saw the wages. We're not making so much, but this is one of the highest housing cost areas in the country, the whole state. And so my understanding is we're actually, there have, throughout the pandemic, there was an inability to build housing like they were, you know, planned to do. So we're actually, I heard a random number, and I could be wrong on this, but it was shocking. It was like 4 million houses underdeveloped, which is a real challenge because that's a lot of catch-up to do. And what is that going to do? It's going to drive up prices. It's going to make it really expensive, and it's already, yes ma'am.
I just want to say, I agree with everything. And I want to ask them, I'm going to agree with all this. The housing is going to be built is great, but right now,
What do you do right now?
Governor Abbott put a bunch of people in buses. They came to DC. They're on our doorstep right now. So what do you suggest we do?
Well, I think depending on where these folks are located, we start at the local level, we raise up to the county, and we go straight to the governor. I mean, we have to fight it, and we have to raise noise. I was not aware of how many folks were arriving and how many impact it was having. But, you know, my first thing is always advocacy, and then finding the places to put them. That is really local government. I mean, at the end of the day, it's what happens locally. And there's nowhere to put them. So then we have to go. Let's make a plan, and let's start implementing it ASAP, because that is really the only way to do it, is everybody bringing their resources together, raising it up and building awareness for it, and moving on a dime, which is what we have to do. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's hard. I mean, you're doing God's work, and the goddesses.
Hi, Graciela. I work at Esperanza Center Services. So I believe we are probably one of very few institutions who provide healthcare for people who are undocumented, and mainly that in Latin next people. And we are overwhelmed, absolutely overwhelmed. And I know that you have had conversation with a lot of institutions. I am just wondering whether someone from, services, people who provide direct services to this population are being involved in the conversation. Because, believe me, mental health needs, physical, health. We, at this point, I don't know where to take people to go because we are not able to, to provide the services to the amount of people that are requesting in a day-by-day basis. So I am just wondering if there is any plan.
So are you both based in Baltimore City?
Yes.
Okay, well, we gotta talk to the mayor then, and, I mean, you've gotta go, local government as well, I don't know if there's at the, like, neighborhood level, because if we gotta get people into homes, but we also need funding. So, maybe we can build a plan together and start fundraising, and, because this is a long-term problem, this is not short-term, there's a short-term need, but then there's a long-term, and we don't want it to become a crisis.
Well, my question is, have direct service providers being involved in discussions, in,
Yes.
in plans and everything, because sometimes, it's people at the police.
Sure, I agree.
People doing the job doesn't get involved at all.
That's right, and I concur with you that it has to be, whatever I do has to come from you. I can't just, get on my high horse and go and do my really fancy research, and then if it's not tied to what's actually happening on the ground, and if I'm not taking my networks and giving them to you to help you, then I'm failing. So that's my personal commitment. It's a big lift, and I know it sounds really idealistic, but we have to start somewhere. And that was the whole reason why this got started in the first place. I've reached out, the first thing I did when I got here was to reach out to Esperanza Center, of course, because, con respeto, and Centro Sol, and I continue, as every week I try to reach out to leaders in different organizations and learn from you. And I'm fearless in that sense. I will get in front of anybody and I will, lead it, let's just have a sit-in in your office then. Because at some point, we've got to do something. And this is the challenge, this is why we were created, because our voices are not being heard. To you, I've only been doing this for 1.5 years in Maryland. I come from the national level, but I also always did grassroots organizing work. And whether it was in Texas or Orlando or Arizona or Utah, I've been there too. It's really about what's going on locally. And what I know I'm really good at is connecting the dots, and I can help with that and think outside of the box and bring people to the table who can help us. I don't have all the answers. In fact, I probably don't have any. You probably have the answers, and I just need to find you the right sources, right? And that's how we start the loops going. But think of me as a resource. I mean, I'm happy to brainstorm. Like, let's figure it out and let's provide solutions, because I know that as a community we are creative, we are valiant, we have coraje, and we're willing to cross thousands of miles on a journey we don't know where we're going to end up. And this is all of us. It's not just some of us. So I can keep talking. My nickname is Gabby, right?
David, it is time for announcements. So I know some of you brought flyers, and I told you to hold on to them. So if you have flyers that you want people to take, you can put them back on the red tablecloth back there so people can pick them up on their way out. So if you have an announcement, come line up here. We would love to hear what your organizations are doing.
First on the mic is...
And you have to come stand right here.
Detective Rodriguez. You get to sit. You get to stand right here.
Detective Rodriguez, you have lost so much weight.
Yes.
I didn't even recognize you.
All right, guys. So, Detective Rodriguez, like I said, former Hispanic liaison for Baltimore City Police Department, but I'm here representing OLEA, which is Hispanic Officers Law Enforcement Association. I'm the vice president. I'm just here to kind of like give a quick promotion on the event. We're bringing back Latino Fest 2022 to Baltimore. Let's start. So that is thanks to the organization OLA, which is Hispanic Leadership Hispanic Organization for Leadership Advancement. There we go. I'm chair member in that organization as well. My organization, OLEA, and as well as the Hispanic National Latino Officers Association, HILEA, which they're based in PG County, south of the state. We came together as sister organizations to get together with OLA and make that event happen. Bring back Latino Fest 2022 to Baltimore City. So, I mean, and I know I owe, the way we should have done this is kind of like bring a presentation of what OLA, you know, the main organization that is, it's a 501c3 that is kind of like spearheading it, what it's about. And just to give you a quick overview, and for next meeting, I'll bring a presentation, I promise, with other members of the group.
June, there will be a presentation.
Yeah, June, okay. All right, I'll do it. Well, all right, June, I'll take it. Yep.
We'll have these out.
So, just to take a quick overview, what we do, what we do is we kind of like help out the community in terms of developing business leaders, you know, for business, from the schools. Right now, we got a pilot program, mentorship program for young Latinos at Patterson High School right now. And basically the event, Latino Fest, is to start a, what you call a scholarship fund for the guys. So, and also there's a new program, pilot program for the girls as well that are starting up right now. Sorry, you know, I don't got the exact name for the group now, but it's kind of like starting right now. But as well, in the long run, we're going to be helping that program as well for the females in the school. So, for June, I'll have that presentation ready. June. From OLA. But yeah, but just to let you know, we're bringing back
Latino Fest
2022. So, just to let you know, 501c3 organizations, government organizations are free to take part in it. You'll have a booth. Just reach out to myself, there's going to be information there. So let me know, and we'll give you a participation form. And as well, I got already David, State Farm as well is already sponsoring. So actually contact David as well. I can't get a hold of him. So, yep.
Thank you.
Who's coming up first? Come on, Enrico. Stand front and center. I need your pretty face on my camera.
Buenas tardes, damas y caballeros, and ladies and gentlemen. I have 4 questions that I want to ask.
Enrico, speak into the mic.
How many of us know how to protect our families in case of an untimely death? Second question, what do we have in place to not leave our families with large debt? The third one is, will your family's lifestyle get worse, remain the same, or improve upon your death? Number 4, how can we learn to improve our family's financial future?
Those are great questions, by the way.
Those are excellent questions.
Now, the reason I'm presenting these questions to you is because I have the answers for them. But not me. There's a group of individuals that I've been working with for the last 3 months or so. They asked me these questions, and I didn't have a good answer. And as a matter of fact, I knew that my family's financial situation was going to be worse without my income if I had a sudden death. So I've been learning about this, and I joined the ranks of my brother here, who's already in the insurance field, and I became a licensed insurance and health, licensed in health
I know how hard that is.
Okay. So I completed that, and now what I want to do is bring that to us, because typically in the Latino and our black population, we keep our money under the mattress. Okay? We bury it someplace. It doesn't gain any interest. We don't learn how to manage money, And how many of us had that How to Manage Money 101 in school? I see one person. You know, I might have to talk to her because I want to know where that is, because I didn't get it. Okay? So what I'm gonna have, I'm gonna have a book over there, a green book, that if you want to find out more about this, okay, there's a two-part to this. One is the products themselves, how you can protect yourself and your family, how you can create legacy for your family in case of your death. And not only that, but living benefits as well. And then if you want to partake in the other part, which is actually jumping in and learning how to make money doing it yourself. Okay, I will have that information for you. We should have something on Thursday, but I will, if you can't do it Thursday evening, just leave me your information and we can do it privately for you. Okay?
Thank you.
Hello, friends. It's me again. Hello.
Hello.
So I'm here to present Bridget, Maryland. I don't know. Can you guys hear me in the back? Thanks. So I'm here to present Bridget, Maryland, Uniendo Maryland. We are a new organization, and our goal is to support the organic development of the Latino community in Baltimore County, Baltimore City, and in all Maryland. As we all know, Comité Latino de Baltimore has done a lot for our community, and we know of many little grassroots organizations throughout Baltimore County and Baltimore City that need the support to grow and be more like formal organizations. So our first goal is to develop these little communities and develop the community leaders. Our second goal is to bridge resources to these communities, and our third goal is to advocate to eliminate the barriers to resources. What we have learned is that organizations usually are the ones advocating to eliminate the barriers, but we want the community directly involved in designing, the projects and eliminating these barriers. Well, the good news is that I'm not here only to present Bridget, Maryland. I'm here to invite all of you to our first resource fair. Our research and surveys have shown that Latinos in South Baltimore feel disenfranchised and feel left behind. So we have a resource fair in South Baltimore, in Curtis Bay. Thank you. So we're targeting the Latino community in South Baltimore. They feel disenfranchised, they feel left behind. So we're working with Judy Center at the Curtis Bay Elementary School. We're hosting a resource fair on May 18th. And that is with the support of Civic Works and in partnership with Asociación Guatemaltecos Sin Fronteras and Comité Latino de Baltimore. We are requesting your support in developing this community in South Baltimore, and by this I mean we have available tables to please come and let the Latino community in South Baltimore that you really want to reach out to them. Not only we want to invite you and we request your presence, but we would like to ask for a recovery fee. We need to recover, the expenses we have, and I know it's tough for all organizations, and no one is going to be denied a table because of lack of the recovery fund we're requesting. So please support us, and we're going to share information through the Latino Network Providers emails. We have brochures. And again, I think that this is going to be the first event in South Baltimore that will bring that sense of building community, because we know the importance of building community in order for them to access the resources and in order for them to advocate directly to eliminate the barriers for resources. So again, May 14th, I'll share some brochures and you'll get our information through Latino Providers Network. I think, so hooray for Bridget, Maryland, Uniendo Maryland.
Thank you.
Lots of work with all of us.
Great job.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Julia Sarmiento. I work for Latino Economic Development to announce two things. We're going to be having a Baltimore City rental clinic on May 14th and May 21st. It's going to be at the City of Refugee. I have put out some flyers on the table in the back that you can grab on your way out. This clinic, we're partnering up with Community Action Partnership with the city government, and we're also with, like I said, City of Refugee, and other social service providers as well that are going to be there helping people apply for OHIP, applying for Water for All, for people who are behind on their water bill or who need financial assistance. So definitely please help us spread the word out about people that they can come and take advantage. City of Refugee also is a great resource for all of the people to know about. They have a domestic violence program. They also have assistance for people who need help paying the rent, and they're right on the border between Anne Arundel County and Baltimore City and Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Arundel. So they try to help people from all over those places. LEDC, unfortunately, is only able to help Baltimore City. We do have a program that helps Baltimore County, but it's very limited. But please help us spread the word. We're also looking, like if you're going to come out and help out, help us with the applications or anything. We're also taking that, but I think we're going to be okay on that. Any questions? I'll be staying for a couple more minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is going to be very short. My name is Lucia Islas. I'm so proud that now I'm working with Southeast CDC as eviction prevention case manager. And I just want to tell you that if you have someone that they are on the rent, they are behind light, the electricity, or they need to pay the water, please call me. I will be more than happy to help them. We have a lot of people that they don't know about this. Please take some flyers and bring them to your people and make them to call me. Please.
Thank you. All right, we started a little